Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, now, the US-led coalition has said 5 senior Islamic State group leaders have been captured by Iraqi forces and US-backed Syrian forces. More good news for President Trump as he capitalized on the return of 3 American detainees freed by North Korea. In an extraordinary scene on the tarmac of the Air Force Base at Andrews in the middle of the night, he thanked Kim Jong-un for releasing the Americans, calling him nice and excellent. I'm joined by our excellent Washington correspondent, Kylie Morris. Kylie.
John, it was an extraordinary scene, I've got to say, lit for the television cameras as the 3 released men walked alongside the president, who frankly sounded triumphant. Of course, he has faced a lot of criticism this week over his decision to pull out of the Iran deal, walking away from one nuclear treaty, if you like, even as he tries to negotiate another. So this was an opportunity for him to prove to his critics that his brand of deal-making works. And now he's actually announced the date for his summit with Kim Jong-un. It will be held, we're told, on June 12th. He's been tweeting it's going to be held in Singapore. And he's added, we will both try to make it a very special moment for world peace. Now, it will no doubt be a memorable moment either way. Already there are fears, certainly from Seoul, that the president might be preparing to make concessions on US troop levels in South Korea, offering up to draw down those deployments in return for some move toward denuclearization by Pyongyang. Of course, it's all speculation at this stage, but no one should be in any doubt as to how high the stakes are. Some North Korea watchers have already warned that President Kim, to some extent, has done well out of this already, he's been given international credibility without really giving up anything very much. But last night, there was President Trump shepherding home these 3 American citizens and really saying that their release is symbolic of something that he can achieve. It was 3 a.m. when they finally landed at Andrews Air Force Base. After all being held captive in harsh conditions for more than a year in North Korea, they arrived to be met by President Trump and the First Lady and walked smiling and waving through the night across the tarmac.
It's very early in the morning. I think you probably broke the all-time in history television rating for 3 o'clock in the morning, that I would say.
But for Kim Jong-chul, this wasn't so much a TV moment as a blessed return for the businessman who had once lived a quiet life in Beijing.
It's like a dream, and we're very, very happy.
After his arrest in 2015, when he was charged with spying on the regime, his confession was broadcast on national television. Despite his begging for mercy, Kim Jong-chul was sentenced to 10 years hard labour. Reporters asked him on his release how he'd been treated.
How were you treated? You have to give me the answer.
We were treated in many different ways. For me, I had to do a lot of labor, but when I got sick, I was also treated by them.
Tony Kim, to the president's right, and Kim Hak-song were both detained working at a university in Pyongyang. Neither spoke last night, but their president was effusive in his gratitude to the man who'd granted their release, the same man who'd locked them up in the first place, Kim Jong-un.
We want to thank Kim Jong-un, who really was excellent to these 3 incredible people. They are really 3 incredible people. And the fact that we were able to get him out so soon was really a tribute to a lot of things, including a certain process that's taking place right now.
The process so important that perhaps the president was carried away with his praise for the really excellent Kim Jong-un. But world peace is at stake, so Donald Trump wants everyone on board and not too much dwelling on the hundreds of thousands of North Koreans in prison camps today or the murdered American student Otto Warmbier, who was sent home in a coma. On North Korean television, the arrival of Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, to collect the 3 prisoners was set to music, with moments of mutual contemplation as well as apparent glee. There are record-breaking ratings to be had here for both sides, but this is white-knuckle diplomacy with real-world risks and devastating consequences should next month's summit fail.
Kylie Morris there reporting. Now, earlier I spoke to Ian Bremner, who is the founder of the Eurasia Group, a global political risk research firm. And I began by asking him whether bully diplomacy a la Trump actually works.
If you mean the bullying North Korea directly and the threat of military strikes, no, I don't think that's what made this happen. But I do think Trump's been effective. And it's really about Trump's working with Xi Jinping back from the Mar-a-Lago summit, the first major summit that Trump had in the United States, when he got the Chinese to take much more seriously expanding sanctions against the North Koreans and implementing many of those that were already there. I mean, they're 90% of North Korea's trade. And when the Chinese suddenly started taking it seriously, that's when the North Koreans recognized they needed to open up.
If you're Kim Jong-un and you're watching the week's events, especially when it comes to the Iran deal, you might think to yourself, the one thing I'm going to hold on to are my nukes. So to what extent is this a bit of a problem for him, linking expectations with North Korea with the reality of what's just happened with Iran?
The Iran deal is really not the relevant issue here. The relevant issue is about Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein. I mean, there is a rather checkered history of American intervention and rogue states that don't have nuclear weapons. They're much more vulnerable. If you listened to the statements made between Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping in China in the past week, it's very clear that what Kim means when he talks about denuclearization is a much longer-term process. It's inconceivable to me we're going to come away from Singapore with anything that is implementable or verifiable.
Is the really big significance of this week, May the 8th, the day that the Western alliance, the link between Western Europe and the United States, was perhaps irreparably broken because of the Iran deal?
Probably it was. You know, the United States and the Europeans have had a lot of problems of late. In part, that is domestic challenges in the U.S., less interested in leading the world and with the Europeans. In part, that's Brexit and all the European elections that have gone against the idea of a strong Europe and a strong Europe with the United States. Once Trump was elected, America First, you've had all sorts of things that have unified the Europeans in opposition. Certainly you saw that with the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accord, the withdrawal from UNESCO, the decision on Jerusalem as the U.S. Embassy in Israel, and now by far the most dramatic, the withdrawal from the Iranian agreement, the JCPOA.
Does America First increasingly mean America alone?
America First does mean America unilaterally. And what we've seen is that when you are still the country sitting at the poker table with the biggest stack of chips, when you tell other countries what to do, they will frequently listen to you. And I have no doubt that even on Iran, it's possible that after 6 or 12 months of economic depredation, the hardliners will come back with begging bowl in hand and say, we were willing to talk to you about our proxy wars against your allies in the region, our support for terrorism, our ballistic missile programs. But let's be clear, the relationship between the U.S. and Europe is very deeply damaged, and that's not coming back anytime soon.
Ian Bremner of the Eurasia Group.